Hello, my fellow speakers. This is Brian, the Speaker for the Dead, coming to you today with a review of Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. Did you enjoy it? Great. Okay, my next video will be... no, just kidding. Anyway, I wanted to give a quick review of the film. This will be a spoiler-free review. Just want to talk briefly about my feelings about it and the feelings of the people who went with me last night. There was about 6 of us total that went. 3 of them which were my kids, 2 of which were my younger brothers. And so we sat down after we got home and had a big Skywalker, Jedi, Star Wars discussion. It felt very reminiscent of the Big Bang Theory. Me and one of my brothers got into this debate back and forth. And so I'm going to throw it out into this video. For those of you who have seen Rise of Skywalker, here's the question. Was Leia's lightsaber blue or green? I know. That discussion went on for probably, I don't know, an hour, 2 hours after. I mean, because once we realized we disagreed about that, we went back and forth, and I was trying to explain to him why it was blue, and he was trying to tell me it was green. I'm like, no, Luke's was green, Leia's was blue. It was always blue. That's why it's blue when Rey takes it. And anyway, it went round and around and around, and my wife and my daughters are sitting there just laughing at me and him, just battling over this really insignificant part of the movie. But yeah, we just went round and around.
Riot! Riot or I'll break it off! Ah, no! Come on! Stop it!
Boss? What happened?
The pen is blue. The pen is blue! The goddamn pen is blue!
Anyway, so put in the comments, was it blue or green? So that's all we need to know. So anyway, so if I was going to score this film 1 out of 10, I would give it a 5. It was not terrible. It was not awful. Most of the fandom menaces out there screaming and ranting. I mean, and I watched a little bit of those reviews before I went just to see and tried to avoid anything that was spoilerish, just to kind of get a feel for the reviews. And I listened to some more reviews when I got home from middle of the road guys like Black Angus, Thor Skywalker, and some other guys like that they're pretty even keel, moderate, moderate people about this movie going into it, and I wanted to see if they stayed that way. Now, even most of the moderate people are saying this was not a great movie, and it wasn't. It was not a great movie. I have to admit that. It was better than The Last Jedi. I have to say that. When I walked out of The Last Jedi a couple of years ago, I was so angry. I mean, I could not believe what I had just seen. It was just a tragic mockery of Star Wars. What Ryan Johnson had done had just made a mockery of everything that we loved about Star Wars. And then in this one, I didn't feel that way. I came out of it feeling numb. You know, like that numbness you get when after the dentist has worked on you and you can't feel your face at all. That was what it felt like. I just felt numb. I felt like, okay. It didn't, I mean, and that should not be how you walk out of a film. You should walk out of it feeling like, that was a pretty good film. Or, man, that was freaking awesome. It was so great. But I can see what J.J. Abrams was doing. He middle of the roaded everything. I mean, he did not take any risks, did not take any real chances. I mean, there's some of the storyline that doesn't make sense, but it gets kind of convoluted. And I understand now what everybody was saying before I went into this film, which was this should have been 2 movies. Okay, J.J. Abrams tried to rewrite The Last Jedi in this movie and make the movie he was supposed to make. And I don't blame him, because Rian Johnson threw away everything he had set up in the movie he'd started. But it's still J.J. Abrams' fault. Because J.J. Abrams should never have walked away from that second movie. He should have stayed and took care of this trilogy from beginning to end. But he doesn't. He doesn't finish well. He doesn't, in some cases, he doesn't even start well. But it just, so, I mean, this is not a terrible movie. I laughed several times in it just from the fact that how much he was retconning The Last Jedi. I mean, with a tongue-in-cheek, there was just like these throwaway lines that would get thrown out in the movie where it was just like, and I love that part of it. I mean, I have to say, as somebody who hated The Last Jedi, I loved the fact that J.J. Abrams just kind of underhandedly kept slapping Rian Johnson in the face. Idiot, idiot, idiot. And that was what it was like. There were just different lines throughout the whole movie where that's what was happening. And you could tell. I mean, J.J. Abrams had to undo all of the damage that Rian Johnson had done. And try and rewrite this story to be fixed. So it was a middle of the road film. Like I said, I could watch it again, whereas I don't feel that way about The Last Jedi. I don't want to see that film. In fact, I sat there thinking, should I see The Last Jedi before I go watch it? And I just could not make myself do it. I was just like, no. Mm-mm. That's hours of my life that I won't get back, and no. So it was not a terrible movie, and so I have a son who's 20 years old. I have a daughter who's 18 and a daughter who's 16. So I have some millennials and Gen Z KXYers. I don't understand the generation thing. I don't know when that starts and stops and how you determine that. So anyway, but those were the age range. And then I'm 45, and then my younger brother is like 40, I think, and the other one's like 38 or something like that. So there's a pretty broad spectrum age. It's terrible I don't actually know my brother's ages, but I have a hard time remembering mine most of the time. So, but it was just, everybody walked out of it feeling like that. Now, my daughters and stuff, they seem to have liked it a little bit more. My son, he was kind of the same way I was. Everybody was kind of like, 5.5, 4. Like my one brother was like 3. And I'm like, really, 3? And then he kind of was like, well, maybe 4, So anyway, but yeah, it was a fun discussion, and that was what was the coolest thing was actually getting to sit down after the movie was over and we got home, and just everybody sat around discussing, talking and stuff. And I wish I could have recorded that, because it was a really fun and funny conversation. And my daughter's laughing at me and my brother's just sitting there going round and around about different points in the movie. And because there was a lot of confusing points in this movie where you're just like, wait, what? Okay. And you just kind of have to do that throughout this whole movie. You just kind of have to go, okay, that's a thing. Oh, all right. That's something else. But there were some really interesting things done in this film, and a lot of the questions that were left unanswered at the end of the Force Awakens get answered. It actually makes some sense. You still don't quite get the full picture for how Rey ends up being what she is and stuff. I'm a little confused on that. And they don't talk about certain things and stuff. They don't really explain how Palpatine came back, other than they just use a line to explain it. That was actually a line from Return of the Sith, or Revenge of the Sith, pardon me. So it was, but it was an all right film. When I watched guys like, I watched the World Class Bullshitters doing one of their reviews, and I mean, they were just trashing this movie moment to moment to moment, and that's what I was just like, you guys went into this to trash it. Like, you were never going to give this movie a chance. And I feel like that is a lot of what we're getting, at least from the titles. Like I said, because I hadn't seen it yet, I didn't watch a lot. I want to go watch Doomcock's. His titles seemed to leave some ambiguity in there, where it was like, yeah, there were good moments, and then there were bad. So I'm interested to hear what his take was, and some of the other guys. But there were some of them where it was just like, this movie makes the spoilers were better than this movie. And before that, they kept saying how, if these spoilers are true, this is going to be the worst movie. I mean, it's just like, make up your mind. Stop. You went into this to hate it. So, surprise, surprise, you hate it. I just feel like they're just playing to the base that they've created for their channels, where they were expected to hate it, so they did. And they just tore this movie apart. Now, there's a lot to break down in this movie. Like I said, it was basically 2 movies shoved into one. And I feel bad that J.J. Abrams had to do it like that. And I think it could have been so much better had they just went back and done that. Had JJ just said, look, you want me to do this last movie? You're giving me 2. This is not going to be a trilogy. It's going to be a quadrilogy or whatever. And then allowed him to make a movie that allowed him to smooth over The Last Jedi and what it had done, and then make the final tale in the story. And actually, that's what I would have done if I were J.J. Abrams. Just said, I won't do 1, but I will do 2. I want to undo what Rian Johnson did, and I can't do that in one movie. I've got to find some way of smoothing this over. And, I mean, my opinion, they should just decanonize The Last Jedi, because it wasn't Star Wars anyway. It was Star Wars dressing on top of a poop salad. I mean, that's all it was. So it just, anyway, but this movie, go see it. Go see it. I mean, it's worth a watch and stuff. And don't let anybody tell you it's the worst movie ever. No, The Last Jedi was the worst Star Wars movie ever. And it isn't even close. It isn't even close. This one is better. This one has better action sequences. They're both beautiful films. The cinematography, the all that kind of stuff. This one feels much more Star Wars than the others. You get introduced to some of these new characters, and I felt bad because I was actually interested in some of the new characters that get introduced in this, and I can't really go into that without spoilerish stuff. But I just felt bad. I was like, wow, that actually seems like an interesting character. Too bad we're not going to find anything out about that person. And you really don't. You get just, but you do get more character development for the main characters, but it's a little confusing. Like the stuff that happens between Finn and Poe, half the movie they seem like they can't stand each other, and then the other half they're just like, you're my best friend ever. And I'm like, okay. Anyway, so yeah, go give this movie a watch. Like I said, it's worth a one-time view. I mean, and if you're not that big into going to, I mean, at least watch it when it comes out on video. It's worth it. It really is. And don't let anybody scare you off. This is the dumbest movie ever. You know what? Take your own opinion. And that's what I really want to give as my whole point for this review. Use your own judgment. Use your own judgment. So anyway, thanks for watching. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you've seen this film, what you thought of it, what was your score, what were some things that you were confused about or things that you did or didn't like. I'm really interested to hear your takes on this because it's a big movie. So I don't think it's going to do as well as the others did just because there's so much fervor around this, and J.J. Abrams had almost an insurmountable task. Whew. Boy, it took a lot to get that word out. And sometimes you just get mealy mouthed. It's like, blah. Anyway, so, yeah. If you're familiar with my channel, you know that happens a lot. So, anyway, thanks for watching, and we will talk to you next time. Bye now.